100 extras, and I was like, in war. So it was like, it was pretty cool.
So you were like literally geared up and
pretty much, yeah.
With AK-47 and all that. A lot of the time, like I would like next to each line, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to beg in this line, like for forgiveness, or I'm trying to, scare this person in this line. What's your acting process? Like, how do you prep for roles? What do you do?
When you're loose and you just trust your instincts.
Yeah, like when you don't care about the audition at all, that's when you get it.
It's also a little bit true with auditions, but I find whenever you get like the call, you got the role, or even getting an audition, it's always when you're like not expecting. It's always when you're like out doing something else, and it's the last thing on your mind. Yeah, I was actually on like a first date, I think. Okay. And I like looked down at my phone when she like went to the bathroom, and I was like, got the role.
I think a lot of people don't actually give enough credits to how difficult it is to actually mimic it. And I asked him, like, what's the secret? Like what, what triggered it for you as an actor? Well, you know what his advice was to me? Okay, guys, we're back with the second episode of Breakthrough. And in today's video, I have one of my dearest friends, Austin Trapp. How's it going, buddy? How's it going?
Shucks. It's great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. This is the second episode of the podcast Breakthrough, where we just meet with like a bunch of our fellow actors, entrepreneurs, and other creators, and talk about their journey to making money, or like getting to their dream role, whether they made it or not. And the reason why it's called Breakthrough is just because a lot of people associate Breakthrough as like a big hit or like a big swing that they have in their career, like their dream role. But honestly, like a breakthrough could be something as small as just like waking up in the morning and realizing that you could just do this, that you're made for it, and then you have what it takes. I think that's a breakthrough by itself. It's it could be something as small as that.
The little wins.
Small little wins. Okay, so I mean, I did print your IMDb over here because I wanted to go over your your career, and I mean, Austin is also like an entrepreneur. He's not just an actor, but he's also an amazing entrepreneur.
Oh, thank you.
That's amazing, yeah. So let's talk about the first. Well, why don't we start with your acting? I think a lot of us are just like intrigued as to like what really got you started. What sparked the interest. How do you get into acting?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of actors get asked that question, and I'm always interested myself in hearing people's journeys, because you know, you have the people that are like, oh, I was wanting to be an actor since I was 3 years old.
Yeah,
that wasn't the case with me. It was definitely like out of the blue, especially considering like people I knew and they kind of knew me before acting. They had no idea I would ever go down this path.
Right.
And I'd say it was kind of a sense of like a domino effect, essentially. I always liked TV growing up. I always liked films, but you know, just kind of as like a rest from like sports and everything. I liked editing videos. So I was kind of first intrigued about like filmmaking, like YouTubing and like stuff like that. I really kind of had a few like people I was fans of, and ultimately like went away to school, did a Bachelor of Science, and realized like, I was like, I don't want to have the like 9 to 5, the 2 weeks vacation a year, being in a clinic all day long, every day, like kind of same 4 walls. And I finished university and I felt very lost. I didn't like who I was as a person. I felt like I really wanted to grow. And
so when did you like, I mean, like how long we're talking, like how long ago was that?
Yeah, like that whole period, that would have been, I don't know, like when I first thought about acting, probably like 7-ish years ago. I dabbled in modeling a little bit first, did some traveling, kind of, did a bit of vlogging and like stuff like that.
Nice.
And then I saw this random like job posting to audition to be an actor.
That was in Toronto, right?
I was actually traveling in Spain at the time.
Okay, you were in Spain.
I was just like, I was very much in the mindset of like, YOLO, like try things, experiment, like whatever. And I did this kind of audition, and then it was like a showcase, and they invited me out to this big showcase in LA, and I met Tom Cruise's like first agent, and he's like, oh yeah, kid, you should go for this.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
I didn't know about
I kid you not. It was like so random. Like honestly,
that's so funny.
Yeah, the experience was kind of cool. And then after that, I just jumped into some acting classes in Spain for a little bit, and then ultimately applied to like film school here in Vancouver.
Okay, so you acted in, like, did you speak Spanish? Like
no, it was like the only acting school in Spain. I just like tried it out. It was like it was Meisner, and it was all English. It was the only acting school in Spain, and dabbled in that, and then ultimately was like, you know what, let's just jump in.
Let's try, let's go. Like let's true science, and then
exactly.
Let's do that.
Didn't know what I was doing, but sometimes when you have no idea what you're doing, you can kind of you kind of follow your heart and your instinct a little bit more. I think because you don't really have logic to talk you out of something at that point.
Right.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I think a lot of people can actually relate to this, but what did your, like how much of an impact your parents had on you, like basically just letting them like, hey, I'm actually not going to do science. I'm going to be an actor. Like, did your siblings, parents be like, what are you doing? Like, what, like, where did this come from?
Well, at that point, like I had moved away from home when I was pretty young. Like I moved away when I was 19.
Right.
And so kind of like, you could say arguably like grew up sooner and kind of was already kind of doing whatever I wanted to do.
Yeah, early enough. Yeah.
So kind of at that point, you know, I was probably like 23, 24.
Yeah.
My dad was like, are you like, he was kind of like, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
yeah,
He was like, are you sure? Like what? And then I wasn't as close with my sister. I think she probably would have just had some like wise remark making fun of me or something.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much all it was. And then they're like, all right, well, you know, if you want to do it, go for it. You're an adult.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you're right. I mean, like you did start with modeling, right? So I guess it, you know, they probably could have foreseen this. You know, if someone like it's into modeling, then it's not.
It's a transition. Like
it doesn't come as a surprise. Yeah. But I mean, I totally agree. I just feel like a lot of our parents don't really, they don't actually believe in it until they actually see you. And you start getting some credits and they're like, well, you see, I told you.
Yeah.
Like
that's so true. There's literally like one role where like that happened with my dad and he's like, you know, you should do that. He's like,
you're like, where were you in the beginning? You didn't say that.
Yeah, exactly. So it was pretty funny, but very rewarding when you have that moment for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's good. It's good to have like at least somewhat of a support from your parents, whether that's you know, sooner or later.
Yeah,
because I know people who literally their parents never supported them, even after they booked jobs. They still weren't convinced.
Yeah, I have some friends that are still like that.
Yeah. So I mean, it's
bad.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Okay, so I mean, I'm looking at your IMDb right now, and honestly, it's pretty full. You have 24 titles, which is pretty good, honestly, considering that you started what in 2018, 2017, you said?
Yeah, like 2018. Okay. I got a few more on the way. I can't talk about them yet.
Yeah,
but I mean, excited for those to come out.
Amazing.
Next year.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But maybe we can talk about some of the ones that you've been on already. So, I think one of the, okay, if I could look at so is the Man of the High Castle, is that your first, your first professional TV?
Yeah,
role?
that would have been like the first, like, you know, Hollywood-esque type role, you know, the big budget, you know, classic experience. So that was a really cool experience. You know, being on set, we shot it in Riverview. So that's like a pretty iconic, you know, Vancouver filming location essentially. And
Riverview.
Yeah, it's the old like hospital in Coquitlam.
Okay.
So they film like all kinds of like, because it's a very like
Yeah.
edgy kind of spooky buildings and stuff. So like the scene I was in, it was like, you know, 100 extras, and I was like, you know, in war. So it was like, it was pretty cool.
So you were like literally geared up and
pretty much, yeah,
with AK-47 and all that.
I was, I mean, I'm not sure if we can say the word, but I was a captured Nazi. So that was the role. So I had to act very scared, and you know, with it being the first role, I was naturally pretty nervous and stuff. So I didn't really have to.
First role, you were like a soldier.
Yeah.
That like how amazing is this? I mean, a lot of people just like get like what, like bartender, barista as a first role.
That's true.
You got a soldier.
Yeah, as a like, you know, as a boy growing up, like, you know, I'm sure not a lot of boys obviously, you know, want to go to war. That's obviously a very challenging, tough thing. But
I guess it depends on which country you live. But yeah, I mean, we're very fortunate.
But you know, every kid growing up, they kind of, you know, run around pew pew like kind of thing. And I think that would obviously be it was a cool moment to be able to do that on set.
So obviously you auditioned for this. How did you find out that you got it? Like, like what was your reaction like? Like, because obviously that was your first big TV show credit. So like, how'd you react?
Yeah, it's kind of funny whenever. It's also a little bit true with auditions, but I find whenever you get like the call, you got the role, or even getting an audition, it's always when you're like not expecting. It's always when you're like out doing something else, and it's the last thing on your mind.
Yeah.
And then so many times you're sitting at home looking at your phone and be like for example, I'm on hold for something right now. I keep looking at my phone and like it's not happening. But maybe after this, this, I'll get the role. I don't know. But basically, I
don't want to jinx it too much.
Yeah, I was out, and I was actually on like a first date, I think.
Okay.
And I like looked down at my phone when she like went to the bathroom, and I was like, got the role.
You found out midday. Like at this point, I guess you don't care like how the day goes from this point on. Where it's like, honestly, like if I don't get the girl,
first,
I got the role.
It was the first and it was the last. But you know what? It is what it is. I got the role. That's all that matters.
That's a win. That's a win. If you went on a date expecting to get a girl, but you got a booking.
Yeah.
Honestly, like that's
take
a
it.
huge win.
Yeah.
It couldn't have gone any better. Straight up.
Yeah, it was like
Yeah.
and obviously it was yeah, you'll never forget the first time you get one of those. So,
Yeah. I mean, no, you don't, because clearly they brought you back for Hitler's last stand. So I guess they must have liked you as a
Yeah.
as a
got
soldier.
some war roles.
You must have
yeah.
been like a killer of a job, because I'm seeing here like the Hitler. So what is that? Is that like Nazi sort of a Holocaust?
So it's basically it's shot for like National Geographic, and then I think bought out by Disney, and yeah, it's like a war docudrama essentially. So they're they'll have the historians talking about some event from World War II, and then it'll be like dramatized of like you know soldiers being like shooting, jumping, like doing all the different things, and then like that one was cool because it was like kind of a lot of like improv and stuff, and
so
you know they had the explosions and the tanks, and we'd be like, I remember you like jump over the fires and like be pretending you're shooting at stuff, so that was pretty fun too.
Yeah, I don't think I've been on a set where there was a lot of like shenanigans like that, which is kind of cool, because I was on Wildcards not long ago, so there was a lot of like
nice.
So we had the SWAT team, so they were all obviously like with rifles and everything, so that was kind of the closest I've ever gone to being in an environment like that. But I think it would be like really, really cool to kind of just plunge back into like World War II, or like you know these historic moments in history.
100%. And like
I guess like they must have like styled your hair back like from the 40s, like when you had like how much did they touch you up, like from when you
Man in the High Castle was like kind of a military-esque haircut. Hitler's Last Stand, it was like wearing a lot of helmets and just like looking like you're obviously in the middle of a war, so makeup and stuff like that. We'd be like we'd be muddied up, and we'd always be shooting in like November, so it'd be cold and raining, and I'd be like so sore and stuff. I'm like, man, like this is how hard it was, like just acting it. I can only imagine how hard it was.
So you were sore from like
just like the crawling and the running and the diving.
Okay, so
and
there was
all
a
that
lot of
stuff.
like
It was very physical,
Okay, so it's not just like delivering the lines, like you actually had a lot of physical stuff to do too.
Exactly.
Oh my god, yeah, that's very demanding, especially like if you had to do if you have to do the takes over.
I definitely like tweak my back like once or twice. I sound so soft right now. But yeah, it was
so
tough.
cool.
It was an experience. It gave me an appreciation for obviously like
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I actually kind of want to go and watch the clip now, because like I didn't know there was a lot of crawling in that. I was like, oh man, I want to see that now.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things, like they've so many like quick scenes and stuff, so like you wouldn't see me a ton, but yeah, like it was a cool experience. Yeah.
Nice. So I couldn't help but to notice that we actually, believe it or not, I think that I don't know if this is your latest credit or not, but I think you were a security guard on So Help Me Todd this year. Okay. Because I was also a security guard on Alert.
Oh, nice.
So I think we were both security guards at a similar time.
Okay, cool.
But on different shows.
Yeah.
So that's actually really cool. So what was that like? What was this experience on So Help Me Todd?
Yeah, that one was cool. It's kind of a funny story once again, like how I got it.
Yeah.
I was end of the year, like towards the end of the strike last year.
Yep.
And traveling, doing acting and auditions, but like I'm in Asia, like I'm working, but like having a good time.
Yeah.
And I did the audition when I was in my hotel in Bangkok.
Stop. Are you kidding me?
With not even a reader. And
okay, I literally, I kid you not, the same audition I was literally in Australia.
Oh, nice.
Like visiting my cousins, and I literally did it at 11 p.m. when I didn't feel like doing it because I just want to go to bed. And like my cousin had her friend over, and I needed someone to read a line for me, and I just asked him like, hey, do you want to just like read the stuff for me real quick? And like I was literally not giving it a lot of, I mean, obviously like I put some work into it, but I didn't think it was good. I thought it was like decent at best. Like it's funny because like we both went for security guards. And, like I feel like the journey to getting there is very similar. You were in Asia, I was in Australia,
and we just like didn't really care in the moment,
right.
And that's I feel like that's kind of the magic sauce with acting, when you're loose and you just trust your instincts.
Yeah, like when you don't care about the audition at all, that's when you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually what I noticed. This is the pattern. Like I guess you should stop caring and like not to say that you should not put any efforts into your audition. Obviously you should, but
of course, yeah.
I guess the less you care, the less you give a shit.
You're loose. You're having fun with it.
Yeah, you're playing because you're not in your head. You're not thinking. You're just playing. You're like you couldn't care less if you got it or not, because I guess maybe you're not expecting to get it in the first place. So
yeah, like I remember like when I got it, I like
You were
woke up. I was
were you
like,
shocked?
what? I was like, really? I was like, okay, I guess I have to book a flight home now. So,
Right.
but it was fun, like being on set for it. Just yeah, like being in studio in
Yeah.
I think it was like Richmond, but
Yeah.
it was cool to like be a part of a production with like the big studios and the budget and everything.
Right. No, it's awesome. So you filmed this indoors in a studio?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we also like we rented a actual building. So I'm not sure if like we used like one of the Burnaby studios to do this, but yeah, they actually like it was actually a pretty cool building, like an actual building, and yeah, we shot it in there. It was cool. It's a good experience.
And the security guard, was he like, what kind of security guard was he? Was he like by the book? Was he
again, like I just basically served as a bait.
Okay.
Like Alert is just like this TV show where these two cops are basically going around every episode, saving people, you know, solving crimes or whatever. And you know, they had a lead of someone being involved into this like, you know, crazy ass murder, and it led them to our company, which I was a security guard for. And they just came and they're like, hey, we want to speak to your boss or whatever. And I was just like, and they try to trick me into like thinking that they're like, you know, investors for the company, and like just so I can let them in. So I just served as a bait basically. So I just took the bait, you know.
the bait and switch?
It worked. I mean, that's what they wanted me to do, man.
fun,
So
though.
I was like, yeah, oh, I'll do that.
It's nice to, you know, that's the cool thing about acting, and you
Yeah.
know, a lot of actors will say it, but yeah, the cool thing about it is you just get to have different stories and experiences every time you get a different role and meet different people,
Yeah.
and yeah, just play and pretend.
100%.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah. I think some people might actually be interested in knowing what's your acting process? Like, how do you prep for roles? What do you do? Like, how much time do you spend on the script? How much of it is just on its feet and you like rehearsing on camera? Do you usually like call people up for, you know, for a reader? Like, do you Zoom? Like how do you prep?
Yeah, it's evolved over the years. Initially, I was definitely like, let's script analysis the heck out of it,
Right.
You know? Like,
Let's just dive right in.
Let's dive right in. Like, if I'm
3
not
hours,
writing
yeah.
enough, I'm not trying, and then I'm a loser. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I definitely was like,
Yeah.
I would go overboard with that at some points
Yeah.
earlier on. And then, you know, I also will say that like with
Yeah.
acting, you're always, you know, if you work with different coaches and stuff, you're kind of just adding things to your toolkit, essentially. So some things I'll like do, you know, more in-depth stuff with than others. There's, you know, you can do substitution. You can, you know, if it's like a historical piece, you obviously want to do like research on like the, you know, just the circumstances of like understanding like what's going on. Like if you don't understand a line or like why you're saying something, then you're kind of screwed, because then
You are. I mean,
it's
yeah.
going to translate that you don't know what you're talking about.
Definitely. And I think like it's a concept that is very hard for a lot of people to grasp.
Yeah.
Because the way we talk in real life, like we're not actually like when you say a line to someone, like I'm talking to you right now, like obviously like I'm not thinking about the intention. I'm just kind of like feeling it.
Yeah.
Right? But
and if you're thinking about that, you're like stressing out, and then you're all like, it's forced. It's not good.
And it's I mean, it's very difficult also as well, especially in the beginning, because you gotta have all these tactics and all these intentions in your head for each line. Like, know how do you actually gonna say it, and what's the intention behind it?
Yeah.
But without actually saying the intention.
Yeah.
Like it's gotta show through the line as you're delivering it, which is how we actually speak in real life, right? So I guess like for a lot of people, it's hard to. I mean, especially for me, because I used to like. A lot of the time, like I would like next to each line, I'm like, okay, I'm trying to beg in this line, like for forgiveness, or I'm trying to, you know, scare this person in this line.
Yeah.
But again, like when you actually act, you know, you're not thinking for this, like, what was this line again? Was I supposed to beg him or scare him? Like, you know, you're not really doing this like inner monologue work.
It's instinctual at that point.
Yes. And I think like that's kind of the transition of like trusting that it's there, that you know exactly like how the line should be delivered.
Yeah.
And being able to also adjust on, you know, when someone gives you a direction or something.
Listening. Yeah.
Yes. Like, I mean, like, because if your scene partner gives you a line in a very different way, then the tactic that you had maybe preloaded or pre-chosen might not work.
Yeah,
Because the way you receive it is different. So like, it doesn't make sense to like beg or scare or whatever it is you're trying to do, right? So
yeah, I think the best actors every time, and you hear these stories about like, you know, the big names like on set, and every time they do a take, it's like different.
It is.
And the reason is because they like have their loose idea of how they want to do it, but then they kind of throw it out the window and just be in the moment and listen and then focus on their like tactic. And I think, you know, now like I think at one point in one's career, it's really good to do all the like book work, and it's still good to do it. But I think you can kind of do that and then do it maybe like now I would do a bit less of it and then kind of throw it out the window and not put pressure on myself. I'd have a friend over who like I like to read my auditions with. And then, you know, run it a few times, and then often like if it's clicking, it's the first like couple takes.
Right.
And you're just having fun with it.
It's
You're
just
loose.
there.
You're not overthinking, and that's when it's the most fun too.
It really is. And I feel like I'm not sure, like, is it like Robin Williams or like Russell Crowe? And I think I either like saw or read this somewhere, but they literally do a different take every time they act. It's never the same take, to the point where like if the director comes up to you and say like, can you redo this? You're like, nope. That was it. Like, you should.
The blessing and the curse.
Did you shoot this? Because like I'm not doing it again. That was the take. Like,
you're gonna get a different one this next time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's funny because it's I mean, obviously like it's a skill to also be able to replicate. I think
and to take notes from a director is really
take
big.
notes. And like I think a lot of people don't actually give enough credits to how difficult it is to actually mimic the take. Because you know, like when the director comes up and tell you like, hey, I want you to, you know, start crying at this specific line or at this specific word, and then you rehearsed it, but then you're crying, but like you're not crying on this specific word. Yeah. Maybe you're like a couple words off, or like a couple of words like, it's like, no, but it has to be on that word. Like it's got to land, you know? Yeah. So like, again, like, I think it's a really good, like, it's a very, very undervalued skill to be able to replicate the performance. Yeah. You know, to match what they actually want.
Yeah. Cause the trap is if you are trying to do that, then you're thinking about doing that rather than like, once again, being in the moment.
100%.
Right.
100%.
So I even find that if I'm like doing auditions and, you know, you get for whatever reason, it's not clicking the first day, you know, you're 4 takes in, it's not clicking, and you're like, all right, well, I like the third take where I said that line like that, but then I want to like clean this up at the end. And then all of a sudden you're thinking about those things. And then it just starts to go like, it doesn't feel as like organic. Exactly.
Yeah. No, 100%.
Yeah.
So I guess just to go back to the original question. So now, I guess like when you tackle an audition, so like how much of it is like script work? How much of it is rehearsing? How much of it is just like actual filming? Like, you want to give like a ballpark of like what's what? Just so we can.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say now it's probably like 20-25% script work.
Right. So you quickly do your goals, your tactics real quick.
Yeah, kind of like look into the character, like get an idea of them, and then you know, find like a good wardrobe. I find wardrobe's always really helpful. You know, maybe talk about 100%. The role with like a friend and kind of like feel like run it a few times, like a brief rehearsal. Yep. And then and then just be in the moment, listen, instincts. Yep. I think, I mean, not that I'm like the most experienced actor or the best actor or anything like that, but I think I wouldn't be able to do that if I hadn't done so many years of like scene studies and like all these classes and auditions. Like it's just a muscle now, and it's like ready to go each audition now. So it gets easier, I'd say. Yeah.
Because you give yourself patterns and it gets easier every time. Yeah. Because you already know like what it's like, and you already know like, okay, like this is this type of role. I just have to do this and that. I've done this before. This is what they want.
You've done those characters before. Like, you know, chances are you kind of have your hits. And
especially if you book them too, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It was like, oh yeah, I booked a similar role before. Yeah. I kind of know like in a ballpark what they're looking for, which is kind of cool. So I think
what about yourself? Is it kind of similar or?
Yeah. So I think for me, it's I have a very interesting process because I trained at like different studios, and I you know, like I feel like in Vancouver, I feel like there's not enough coaches that actually like focus on the script work. It's something that I had to literally take a class for, because a lot of like, you know, you go to like a coach and they kind of expect you already, like whether you're a beginner or like a more advanced actor, they already expect you to know like about goals and tactics and inner monologue and all that stuff, which again, like for someone, again, like I think I had this arise the other day where like a newer actor came up to me, he's like, hey man, like I went to class the other day, and like I a lot of people were like throwing like words like tactics and obstacles, and I'm like, I have no idea what they were talking about. I was like,
that's the moment where I'm glad I did film school.
You know what I
Because
mean?
like that's the intro for it, but also, you know, film schools are pricey, and you know there's probably less expensive arguably maybe more effective ways to like go about getting into the craft, but that's the one good thing about it is it kind of makes sure you get the baselines without like missing something, like when you go into a scene study where everyone's already assuming you've done it, right?
Yeah. And I feel like so yeah, again, like for me it was really like difficult in the beginning because I didn't know about this. And then, you know, the more I started like focusing on script work, my performance started being a little more organic and, you know, a little more tasty. So I know like when I started with Deb, I actually took her foundational class and some of her online classes, which also focus a little more on the script itself rather than the performance. Which in the scene study, it's a little less. It's more like you're on your feet and you just kind of dive right in, right? But her online classes and her foundational classes are amazing spots, amazing classes to just take if you want to, you know, get your foot wet with the script. But just to go back to your question, depending on the length of the role, if it's like you know, if it's like 4 or 5 pages, I'll spend more time on the on the script because I understand the depth of like of how much work is needed on the script more than the lines themselves. Because you know, like you're actually looking to build a character rather than just a polished performance by tomorrow. Yeah. You know, and if you can show them like, you know, depth in the delivery, and then if I show them history, and if I can show them like, oh, like, you know, like maybe the pains and obstacles and all that stuff, even though I'm not line to line perfect, I think this is more valuable than me trying to get all the lines. So again, it kind of depends on each role, but I would say like if it's like a 1-pager or like a 1-liner, I would do very minimal script work. It would be like just like, you know, the quick goal of the scene, you know, a couple tactics here and there. And
moment before, moment after. You're ultimately there to just move the story along.
Yeah, so give myself some sort of business.
Leave a bit of an impression, and off you go.
Yeah, literally. That's yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's just like a bit of script work, and then the rest is really, I don't like give a lot of like time on memorization. I just feel like it's, I feel like the more you spend time on the script, the better it's there. You know, so the more you're like, it's gonna be there for you. But again, it just depends like whether it's a longer role or like a short script.
Yeah, of course.
Which gets me to my last question before we switch gears and talk about like more business stuff.
Okay.
So do you ever like has it ever occurred where you got submitted for a role and where you found it was a little bit challenging, where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can do this, man. It's just, it seems a bit too out of my range, out of my arsenal. So do you ever like, have you ever like came across these roles and like, how did you manage? How did you tackle them?
Yeah. Well, first off, and this is just me, I've never turned down an audition. No, I've never turned down one. I've always just like been like, no, I got to keep putting myself, just throwing it at the wall. Like something will stick. Right. So obviously, yeah, I've had moments where I've had those thoughts. I find ones.
You want to share one, like just like out of curiosity, like what was like one of the most challenging role you've ever gone for, where you're like, you didn't know if you could actually pull it off or not?
Yeah, there was. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I mean, one that really stood out. I forget what it was for, but basically, I was like in a band and I had to like submit a spot where I had to sing. Okay. And like singing, like two things that scare me are singing and dancing. And singing's probably the number one. Here. Me too. So like I got a friend who's an actor as well and like dabbles in singing to like come and like kind of coach me to like sing a song. Like they're like, oh, sing us a song separately and submit it. And I was like, oh man, he was like, he's like, all right, do this song. I forget what song it was, but it was like basically like the most easy one to sing. And he's like, okay. He was like literally coaching me like word for word. Yeah. So I felt very like obviously like insecure and like tough about that. And then there was like another one where I had to like dance like around my apartment, and I had to have like a friend, like kind of another friend come over and like choreograph like a dance for me. So like stuff like that was really tough. And then like a third one was like well,
actually, you know, let's just because you're not actually gonna believe this, but we actually like we got the tape that you singing, so let's just like roll the clip real quick. I'm just kidding.
I was like, what? Like, wait, what? Can you imagine? Man. But stuff like that, like I find it really tough. Yeah.
I got you there.
Yeah, you know, I was like, wait, what? I was like, is he gonna cut to it? What's he gonna do?
Cut to the tape. Cut the Austin singing
off tape, like
this Disney song.
I'm gonna need you to send me that tape. I think it's buried,
Oh man,
buried
that's
forever.
funny. Yeah. So how do you
Yeah.
okay? How did you manage this? How did you pull it off?
Just trying to stay positive, like
Yeah.
not trying to judge myself, like obviously bringing in, in both occasions, like two different people that
Yeah.
were confident and proficient in those things. Cause I was like, okay, if there's any way of me even remotely pulling this off, I'm going to need their help.
Yeah.
And, thankfully they're really great to help me with that. So
Nice.
those were the two things. And then also just not judging it. I was like, yeah, you know what? Like
Yeah.
the acting might be good, but, yeah, the other stuff probably won't be, but that's okay.
Yeah.
I did my best. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Amazing.
yeah.
Awesome. Nice. Are there like just before we wrap the acting part up?
Yeah.
Are there like any future or like projects in the works right now? Again, I understand you can't talk about them, but maybe you can say like, oh, like I just booked like a feature or like a TV show,
Right.
or I don't know how much you're allowed to say, but you want to maybe talk about some of the stuff that are in the works right now.
Can't say the names or the networks, I don't think, but yeah, in October was a good month. I booked two different
Nice.
network shows
Nice.
and two very fun different characters. So that was I really enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward for those coming
So
out.
these have already been shot. So
They've already been shot. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see those.
Yeah, me
You're gonna
too.
see
Me too.
Austin playing two different characters. Is one of them a comedy role by any chance, or?
One is a comedy and one's kind of like a drama.
Ooh,
Yeah.
spooky.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just switch gears now because
Okay.
I mean, you're obviously like a very driven entrepreneur. It's actually how I actually connected with you in the first place. Before we even like got into like acting, I think that's because I met you at like a friend's birthday. Was it Jeremy when we actually first met before we?
Yeah, it was Jeremy's.
Right,
Yeah.
Jeremy's birthday. That's why we met. And
Yeah, and
then-
I was like, oh, this guy is like entrepreneur. Like we kind of connected.
yeah,
right
we
away on that
connected
stuff.
because you also have a business as well. Correct me if I'm wrong. You have a film and TV tour business where you take people on movie sets and tours and just show them the like where the scene and the shots actually happened. Which is honestly like one of the coolest business ideas I've ever seen.
Oh,
Especially
thanks,
I mean, especially for someone who's in the space. Like what a great way, honestly, to leverage your acting career and find a way to just build a business out of it.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly just like, how did that even come up? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like it's definitely a niche business. Like because you have you have a very large community of like walking tour enthusiasts around the world.
right.
So you kind of have like that community of people that you can kind of target, and obviously tourists and everything like that.
Right.
And then you have people that are like big movie fans and TV fans, and a lot of people obviously know about things that have shot in Vancouver, and they're some very, very popular shows, very popular movies. Some people have no idea about it, but they're just looking for something different.
So see, like this is something that I wouldn't have guessed, which is interesting because I thought that like I didn't know that like there was a pool of people who are actually who would be interested of actually going to like movie sets that like, oh, like this is the building where the motorcycle crashed in the Deadpool movie or whatever. So how did you even like figure out that there was a market? Like,
like it was a bit of a shot in the dark. Like I had worked in the tourism sector before, and my first kind of like inkling of it is people would always get very interested and like have like questions about whenever they like heard I was an actor when I like worked in the tourism sector. And then I'd kind of start like telling them about the Industry and like and then I was obviously kind of interested as well, and I was like, oh, like they shot like Deadpool here, and they shot like Supernatural and Gastown and all these things. People their eyes would light right up. And then I just thought it was cool to like share that, and then I started thinking, I'm like, I know there's a lot that's shot in Vancouver over the years. I wonder if there's like enough to like create a tour like all about that. And then the ideas just started flowing. I was like, all right, well, we could do like a, an interactive activity where we like read a script from like a scene that was shot with a movie star where they stand, or, location map, and like, just talk about the industry and just kind of target people's interests.
Nice. Nice. So I guess you started with like a smaller pool of people. Like, was it just like, I guess like you targeted like friends and family, and then later on when you saw like, oh, there's like a lucrative opportunity here, then I guess you opened it to the open market. Like how did you, or like did you just like started like running ads online and started targeting people who are into the movie scene, and like how did you?
Yeah, I just honestly I jumped right into it. Like I could have maybe done more research, but I just kind of had a hunch. I was like, no one else is doing it. This is cool.
Yeah, like literally.
And then I just like built it, and then I obviously made like the website and the Instagram, and then a big thing for like tours and stuff is like these tour supplier websites. Get Your Guide, Vider, Airbnb for a while, so I would put it on those. And
so
then,
you already had all this knowledge, but like because obviously like not everyone knows that, hey, like you need like an Instagram page,
Yeah.
you need like a website, you need some sort of like online presence. It's not just like, like, oh, like saying I want to start a business, like without like putting something online. Like, did you already have this knowledge that like, oh, okay, like I need an Instagram page for this.
Yeah.
Maybe I need like an emails newsletter, like an email newsletter. Like, did you already like have this knowledge like going into this that you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of like it's kind of funny. Like I had all these random jobs, like as I was acting, like working in tourism, and I did like videography and kind of like content creation for some companies.
Yep.
And just kind of from doing those things, I had an understanding of like what would needed to be done in order to like get ticket sales and get people to see it.
Right.
And then I kind of just, it was like the domino effect, like took it from there, and I was like, oh, this would be good, and this would be good.
Yeah.
And yeah, here we are.
I guess it just goes to show that sometimes you can just like wing it in your business. And
Yeah.
I love it, man. It's amazing. It's just, because like you don't see this all the time. A lot of startups just don't succeed. And like, the fact that you just were so driven and, you had, I guess, you know what? I think when it comes to business, those who actually make it are the ones that actually have a strong will power. Like, honestly, like if you really believe deep in something, and if you honestly, like deep down in your guts, you know that you can actually make this happen, then you will. Because if you don't believe in your business, if you don't actually believe in your idea, no one will buy. Like, how can, like, I get this all the time where like, I get it, like, like where someone would ask me like, hey, like, is this product, like, I'm trying to launch a product. I'm trying to launch this. Like, do you think like, why is my, like, do you think my product is good? Well, I asked him like, would you buy your product? Like,
that's a question not a lot of people will want to answer.
Like, I mean, look, honestly,
like,
if
I think so. It's like wrong answer.
Like, if you're not sold on your product,
then
why would someone else be sold on it if you're not sold on? Like, it's just like, it's like the first thing is to like be literally a customer of your own product.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you
gotta be critical thinking.
Right? Like, I mean, I guess like you wouldn't be taking people on tours if you didn't go on a tour yourself.
Yeah, like
you probably tested some tours at like in the beginning, right?
But when it started out, I was the only one guiding for like the first month or two, because I was like, I want to establish a certain like quality and making sure like knowing what works.
Yeah.
And what I really, the good thing about the business, very little overhead, because I immediately from the top was thinking, okay, like what do I need to break even? Like, you know,
you don't have any warehouse.
There's not a big a risk. Like there was like startup costs that were like recouping.
Yeah.
But the other great thing about it as well is what I pride in it is it's enjoyable for people from all walks of life.
Real nice.
Like an elderly couple from Japan could enjoy it, or a couple of teenagers from Seattle could enjoy it. Or a family, or someone that works in film, or someone that never has even watched a movie can still enjoy it, which I found really cool.
This is actually a very good point, because you know what? I feel like Vancouver is, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's like a very known touristy city. I mean, if you like go on TripAdvisor or like get your guide and like, hey, like top 10 things to do in Vancouver. I mean, yes, there's a seawall, there's Whistler, and then what else there is? Like there's like, the food and whatever. But I guess like it kind of gives like something to do for people who want to come and explore the city. You know what I mean? Like it gives them some cool things to try.
Yeah.
Right. And because I mean, Vancouver is like known for a lot of things, but obviously like, the entertainment industry,
the nature
one of them,
as well.
Yeah. Nature is obviously a big one. But sometimes I Google things to do in Vancouver and I'm like, okay, I mean, the seawall is great. And then, like going to Granville Island is great, but I feel like these are things that people can actually experience in other cities. They're not really getting like a unique experience for their money. So
and that's where I come in.
That's where you come in. Like, well, that's where you bridge the gap. You feel, right? So that's really, really cool, honestly. So right now you said that you're it's happening in Vancouver. I also have like you have like a branch in Toronto as well.
Yeah. So basically what I did is I took what I found worked in the business model in Vancouver, took it to Toronto and made another one.
Nice.
Toronto's been harder because I'm obviously not there. I don't have the same personal connections there, but I wouldn't say it's as big as Vancouver. There's one tour versus instead of 4 here in Vancouver.
Yeah.
But it's working. It's growing. It's doing its thing, and it's the same business model. And because that was the other thing, is there's so much that has shot in Toronto too.
Yeah. No, definitely. Okay, switching gears to your latest project, which I think is really, really cool. Another one. He's just.
That's why whenever
I'm
I'm traveling and I meet someone and they go, "What do you do?" I'm like, "How do I answer this in one sentence?"
You just look like, "What don't I do?"
Yeah. Hey, you know what? I might use that. What don't I do?
Okay, so Austin also started with you know, a couple partners, or was it your friend? A haunting house business. So he had a brilliant idea of like scaring people off on Halloween instead of like just having to open the door and, you know, be like,
Here's some candy.
here's your candies. Why don't you just come to my actual candy house? Yeah, I mean, like this is like how this like this is actually a very cool idea. Like I didn't think this was actually achievable. I thought like it was like when you first told me about it, I thought it was like kind of like a small little
Yeah,
like
definitely wasn't small.
yeah. I mean, I didn't know like to which extent it was like how
Understandable.
big it was.
Yeah.
It's like yeah, he told me like it was like a haunted house. It's like oh, he probably has like a booth at like P&E or something.
Yeah.
Where he's just like you know like okay yeah, it's $5 and then you go in the little maze in there. And I mean that's what I thought it was.
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean? But it's like you actually rented a facility. You hired like scare actors to do this. You know, I was there at the opening, at the premiere, which phenomenal. It was such a good experience.
It's great to have you there.
A lot of people. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Thank you for inviting me. But so how did this come into life? What sparked? Like, how did you? Was it your friend's idea? Like, how did you?
Yeah. So by no means am I the creator. I've you know a big part in it, but
Gotcha.
yeah, we thank my friend who I'd met on set years ago, Alexander Baxter. He's one of the most driven entrepreneurial creative people
Yeah.
I know,
Yeah.
and
Actually, I think he also went to Vada as well, right?
yeah, I
'Cause I
think
did go to
he
Vada. I
did.
think
Yeah,
Alex and you were there.
I think he
But I
went
remember
before me.
2019, 2018, I think. But yeah, I briefly like I didn't meet him, but I know of Alex. Like I've heard of him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's
Great
a
guy.
production company here in Vancouver, Consulate Films. He's produced, written, directed, acted.
Nice.
He was able to create his own feature film, so very like resourceful and experienced in like producing, you know, cinematic type projects.
Yep.
He had worked for the Scariest Corn Maze in Canada out in Abbotsford for years as their creative director, so he got a lot of experience doing that.
Yep.
And then, yeah, I'd met him and, you know, entrepreneurial minds combining, and he was going on about how he wanted to create his own haunted house company.
Nice.
And then he saw an in for me from the, you know, kind of the tourism, social media, marketing like side of things where I would be resourceful with having experience in creating my film tour company and everything like that. And
Nice.
we really saw eye to eye and, you know, very similar. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was our first year. He kind of started, and then we had a big team and
Because I mean,
lot
like
of actors and
I was
stuff.
honestly like surprised by the amount of actors that you guys
Yeah.
hired. So like you guys had like
yeah, we had like
a good budget.
like over 40 actors or so.
I
And
mean,
it was
like-
really cool to be like a part of the casting process as well. And,
Yeah,
like, just
literally.
being like there, kind of like seeing it from the
So you
other
guys
side of
sat down
things.
and like literally casted every single
Yeah.
actor. That's amazing. Because I mean, you know, when you told me about it, I thought like as I said, like it was like a smaller project. And then
Yeah.
when I went to the premiere,
You're like, this isn't small.
like this ain't small. Like I mean,
Yeah.
like I was given a bracelet with like a what is it like the color
Scare bands, yeah.
scare
So that's
bands,
the
yeah.
unique thing about this one is you can customize your scare experience. So
Yeah.
green, yellow, and red. Green
Yeah.
being the most immersive, where the actors can like literally touch you, feed you.
What a great idea!
and red the opposite, and then yellow kind of in the middle. Yeah.
Wow, what a great idea to actually respect people's personal space. It's
Mm-hmm.
just it's amazing because, as you said, like you had these bands, and depending on the color of the band, you know the actors had the option to touch you or not. If you don't want to
Mm-hmm.
be touched and you just wanted to watch and have like a visual experience
Mm-hmm.
without actually being touched by the scare actors, then you had this option. And on the other hand,
Mm-hmm.
you had these other guys who really wanted to get the full experience out of this,
Yeah.
where they just wanted to be basically scared to hell. Like, you know, it's just, so it's funny. It's nice. I was like in between, I think. I wasn't sure if I wanted to be touched because,
Yeah. We always told people go green, go green.
yeah, go hard, go hard.
I
go
should
hard.
mention the name is Dreadworks Haunted House.
Dreadworks Haunted House, guys. Check it out. How many shows you guys have left?
It's done for the season. So that's kind of
Okay.
like the nice thing about that industry is it's
Yep.
like, yeah, it was really intense, one of the hardest things I've been a part of
Yep.
for a period of time.
Yeah.
Now, you know, I can kind of shift my focus into some other aspects of my life. But that being said, there's still very much a
Nice.
lot of things going on in the background right now for
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah, for
So-
sure. And like, is this like a one-time experience? Like, are you guys like reopening the doors for this like next year or like? What's...
Yeah, plan like we have a long-term plan. Like
Nice.
we're planning on not going anywhere. So it's
Okay.
it was a big production. It was like a 40-minute haunted house experience, which
Yep.
I believe is like the longest, or if one of the longest in like Canada, maybe even North America. Like it's one
Yeah,
of the
honestly,
longest experience.
it wasn't short. Like
Yeah.
I was walking in the haunted house, and it kept going, and I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Uh,
I wish you saw it at the end, because the thing is like,
Yeah.
you know, that was our first night where we were like
Right.
getting some kinks out and everything. But
Right.
like towards the end, it was like crazy. Like,
Really?
yeah.
Oh.
Well, there's always next year.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's fun. It's like it was such a
Mhm.
unique experience, because so when you guys like started this haunted house
Mhm.
business, because obviously, like, you know, I've been like to a haunted house before in BC, and I'm guess you guys probably like did your due diligence and, you know, research the market.
Yeah.
Were you guys like scared of like not being able to, I guess, like take a piece of the pie in this market? Like, cause you know, again,
Mhm.
there are some, you know, haunted house in the city,
There's some competition.
right? There
Yeah.
is some competition. Like, were you guys like worried about them by any chance, or like you guys knew already that like, no, we already had like our own niche, like we already like had our customers, we knew
Mhm.
exactly who we were gonna target. Like, were you guys worried about this in the beginning, or not
No,
really?
I wouldn't say we were worried. There's obviously competition, but I think with Vancouver, you know, there's not a ton to do in Vancouver in October. It's kind of a gross month.
Right.
Like the Halloween sector is growing though, so you know we can kind of see that in the States. Like the States has like a massive haunted house industry, and Canada is like growing in that realm, and we're like really getting more and more about Halloween and spooky season.
We are,
So
yeah.
I think like the timing of us launching that business was like crucial, and there's competition, but like not enough for like us to not have any business, I think.
Okay.
And I will
Yeah.
say that like we aim to like separate ourselves from the other companies in
Yeah.
terms of like,
Yeah.
you know, being immersive, like, you know, the
Yeah.
full touch, the feeding, like all these things. And
Yeah.
then the other aspect that we really aims to lean into to like separate ourselves is just
Yeah.
the cinematic aspect of it. Like everybody that was a part of that company worked in
Yeah.
the film industry.
Amazing. So,
Yeah.
which honestly gets me to my next mini question.
Mhm.
So, how, like, again, you kind of answered it. So,
Mhm.
like, you know, obviously when you start a new business, you
Mhm.
obviously like, you cannot look at the market. You got to see if there's a market for it,
Yeah.
and you also got to look at the competition. How
Yeah.
did you guys like really stand out? Like I guess what was
Mhm.
your trademark? What was your selling point or USP?
Mhm.
That made it that you captured a piece of the market? Like, was it
Yeah.
this like cinematic sort of experience that you said, or like,
Mhm.
like what did you guys do different?
I think it was a combination. Like first of all, we were in Cloverdale Fairgrounds, Surrey, and there's a very large population there, and
Okay,
there's only one other attraction that's similar
so that's
within
what it
like
was
a
like Cloverdale.
15-minute drive.
Yeah.
And so it was very proximal. Like there was business to be had there. Yeah, we definitely like aimed to kind of make ourselves look like very premium, immersive.
Right.
Yeah, leaning into the aspect of being very cinematic and film kind of focused.
Yep.
And then the other aspect was just the scare band stuff. Like people really got a kick out of the scare band differences.
That was a brilliant
which we
idea.
didn't really like think that much about.
Brilliant.
I don't even know who came up with the idea.
Brilliant.
But like
idea.
we really separated ourselves, I think, because of that. And
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, just ran with it. Like, you know, really like cutting edge, modern, like kind of a young feel like company.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like we're very, very active on social media, which I
Yeah.
was a big part of.
Yeah.
And
I
yeah.
mean, even the storyline itself was
the
actually
storyline, yeah.
was
That too.
phenomenal.
I should have
Like,
mentioned
again,
that
like
too.
sometimes, like, you know, you walk into these haunted house and like, I mean, yes, I mean you have these crazy, amazing set, like, and these scary things, but the story doesn't quite match
Yeah.
the environment.
And that was a big thing with us. Like
Yeah.
what I should have mentioned even earlier was like the whole thing about us is story.
Yes.
Like there's a reason there's this character that does this. There's a reason that the character says that.
Correct.
Versus the traditional haunted house where it's like, boo, it's a spooky clown.
Yeah.
And there's no context. Like
Yeah.
with us, it's like literally a storyline, and
Yeah.
every year it'll build on that storyline and be connected.
Oh, really?
So it's like this whole
So like season
concept.
2 for next year, basically.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah,
So, like-
a brief mention on the storyline is it's
Yes.
basically like it's a nightmare factory where like nightmares are created, and it's this like evil like dream lord that kind of like
Right.
creates these essentially. So then
Right.
every year there's different nightmares. So
Uh-huh.
for the first year it was like
Yeah.
spore zombies, Tartarus,
Yeah.
and Steamboat Willie, which is
Yeah.
like public domain now,
Right. Amazing.
but spooky version.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like Inception, but like,
Yeah.
you know, just in a haunted house.
Yeah,
Instead
yeah.
of being in a dream, you're actually gonna be in a nightmare.
Yeah, because we wanted to like make all your senses tingle. Like we even
Yes.
like injected smells into the rooms to like make
Yeah.
you really feel like it.
Yeah, literally. Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
There were so many cool things, and
Again,
again,
really
like
cool. Like to see it all come together was like honestly one of the hardest, most like
I was-
meaningful things I've been a
it
part
really
of.
was, and I was
Yeah.
also like really amazed with the quality of the I don't know what you call these, but maybe like statue actors, like dead actors, where I would like walk by and then you would look at like a statue or something where like you would just think it's there just
Yeah.
for like just for the setting, but it's actually an actor who's like
Like he was just frozen and they
he's
jump at
just
you.
frozen in time. He's just there, like he's just waiting for the perfect opportunity to poke you in the back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just it's amazing. Yeah, honestly, what a great experience, honestly. So yeah, guys, season 2.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah.
No, honestly, I loved it, man. Like I'm again free publicity right here. Yeah, so I'm stoked for next year. Again, we'll be
too.
back. Again, obviously, you're an entrepreneur, you're an actor, you do all these beautiful things, which I guess begs the question: how do you manage all of this? Like, how do you manage like how do you find time to act? How do you find time to manage the film and TV tour business?
Yeah.
How do you find time to like manage your haunted house
My life
business?
as well.
I'm even surprised that you're here. Like,
Yeah, it's
it's amazing. Yeah.
it's not for the faint of heart. I really do enjoy what I do, and
Yeah.
I work a lot. I'm a bit of a workaholic, but that being said, I like to have fun when I can too.
Yeah.
But I think it's compartmentalization. The nice thing about some of these businesses is they are a little bit seasonal. Like the tourism industry is busiest in the summer.
True.
The haunted house industry is busiest in the fall.
I see. Okay.
And then acting, it's busy whenever you least expect it. You never
Right.
really know. It's
True.
busy, but you fit it in. And
Unpredictable.
yeah, you just learn
Yeah.
to roll with it, not overthink, and just like don't get overwhelmed. I'd say. And the nice thing is like kind of how the timing of all these things happen. Like
Yeah.
the film tour company, I never mentioned the name, Vancouver Film and TV Tours, Toronto Film and TV Tours. I built those when basically we had like, it was the end of the pandemic. It was like during the strike, like acting was slow. So I like kept myself busy building those, growing, keeping myself productive during those times. Now they're a bit more automated. Like I kind of like, poke around and like fix some things, and I can kind of do that during the winter when it's quiet. And then the haunted house is obviously like insane from like, our whole team was working on it from like March onwards, but it's obviously busiest, like for me, especially like August through, just past Halloween. So I kind of focus on that. And
Nice.
then the tours was focused in the past. So
Nice,
it's
nice.
just it's balancing. Like October was
Interesting.
one of the hardest months and busiest months, but you
Yeah.
just get through it.
I mean, especially that
Yeah.
you booked 2 roles in the middle of all of that.
I was literally like going to set, auditioning, like
Yeah.
going to the haunt, like I had to like let some people go on the
mean, that's a
tour.
great
Like
problem to
it was
have.
crazy. It was way
Yeah.
too busy.
Right. I mean, I guess
Yeah.
nobody would complain of having like all
Yeah.
these beautiful things happening in the same month.
I'm a bit bad in the sense that
Yeah.
I sometimes identify my worth with like how I'm doing with work a little bit, and I think
that's
if
fine.
I was only acting,
Yeah.
then that would be tough because acting's so like
I mean, it is
sporadic.
draining. Like, it's just, again, like, I see this a lot, like, where people really give their heart and soul into acting and they're
Yeah.
not really doing anything else in their life. So if they're not really on set, then they're training, which
Yeah.
is fine, which is, you should obviously be training, but you also, like, you should fill in your life. Again, this is honestly one of the most inspiring advice I've ever gotten from one of my friend, Mario Gavrelis. He's an amazing actor, phenomenal actor from LA. And, he's been on so many things. He's a phenomenal voice actor. And I did ask him this question at some point because, I want to learn from him. He's just he's so inspirational. And I asked him, like, what's the secret? Like what, what triggered it for you as an actor? What made you realize that, like, you can do all of these beautiful things? You know what his advice was to me?
I have a feeling I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Take a shot.
Have a life.
Yes. Literally. That's literally what he said
Yeah.
to me. He's like, he literally looked at me dead in the eye and he's
Yeah.
like, man, honestly, just have a life. Go through things.
Yeah.
Like, just live your
Experience
life.
things.
Like, how do you
Yeah.
expect to play a drug addict on TV
If
or
you've
in
never
film?
done drugs? No, I'm kidding.
No, guys, don't do drugs. That's not what we're doing here. But I mean,
You set
look,
me up
again,
for that one.
right, like, again, like, it's there's always like a way to always like relate to a drug addict, like whether you have a friend who's been there, like you're helping a friend, a sibling, or maybe of someone who's been there, or again, like, it's just like researching. Like, again, a lot of like a lot of people like skip this part of like really researching, like what do drug addicts do, like what's their body language like, how do they speak, like how do they walk. It's so important because you got to translate all of that on TV. But anyways, bottom line is, like, that's his advice to me. He's like, honestly, like, just have a life, man. Like, live your life to the fullest and just don't worry about anything. everything will fall into place. If
Yeah.
you live a good life, you will book jobs, and like you'll be able to play anything because you've experienced stuff. You've been like, you've smoked. Honestly, like, this is probably like one of the most iconic thing I've ever like had to do. Where one of my when I first like started acting, I booked a short where they asked me to smoke a cigarette, right? Which I don't smoke. Like if people know me, I don't smoke. I don't do drugs. I'm like the cleanest person like you'll ever see. Anyway, so I was in the office. I was about to audition, and then the director and asked me like, "Hey, like, do you smoke?" I'm like, "Yeah, I mean."
You just said yeah.
Yeah, and I was like shitting my pants. Like, I don't smoke, man. Like, I don't
Don't
even
make
know.
me smoke.
Yeah, like straight up. It's like, oh yeah, because we just want to make sure, because like this is a character who he's a heavy smoker. I was like, oh yeah, man, don't worry about it, man. Like, I got this. Like, I'm about to smoke one right after this anyway. So, anyways, he's like, okay, cool. Just wanted to check. Just wanted to check. I ended up like booking the role somehow, even though I didn't smoke. I guess the other part carried it. But and when I booked it, I remember like going on YouTube, and I typed how to smoke a cigarette.
Yeah.
Like straight up. Because I didn't know. Like it's like again, it's just things that you have to go through in life in order like to be able to mimic them and make them look realistic.
Well, it's a classic thing as an actor, like doing the pretending to smoke a cigarette or whatever. And,
Right.
And there's so many people that like you can tell they've never smoked a cigarette in their life because they look like awkward when they're doing that.
They're
I
not
never
even
smoked
holding it properly.
Yeah, like
the wrong fingers.
They're not like breathing in, like whatever it may
Right.
be. And like I've never smoked a cigarette, but like ultimately, there's been scenes where I've had to be like smoking. So what do? Like what I did, I was just like walk around the apartment with like a cigarette in my hand, not lit, and just like do puffs, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
It's just about getting that familiarity and that feeling about doing it. And I think that's like you can apply that to anything with acting. Like you can't just pretend that you're like a pro basketball player. Like go out and like shoot some hoops. Like basketball, like at least look like you're not clumsy doing it. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. Oh
So
God, that's so true. Anyways, so that was his advice to me. He just said, have a good life, and honestly, don't worry about the rest. Okay, so we are getting wrapped with this. I guess my last question to you before I let you go is so obviously like now the haunted house business kind of wrapped up. I guess the film and TV tour, is it busy right now? Like, would you say it's
quieter right now?
It's quieter. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you're working on? Is there anything you want to share that you are working on like right now in the dark that I mean, if you don't want to speak about it, that's totally fine. But is there anything that we should maybe know that is coming or in the works?
Honestly, the last year has been very busy and a lot of like learning and growing, and I'm allowing myself just some time to like
Nice.
dial in some good habits, learn some more like skills, just like educate myself more on like different things. So just kind of working on Austin and then just plugging away with auditions and possible roles, and then just working on some stuff for Dreadworks for the new year, and chipping away with some stuff that was like missed on the tours. So it's kind of I'd call it like,
I guess like
admin stuff right now, and it feels good, like just kind of ironing out different aspects of my life. And
I guess like also you guys, now that you've done this the first time, you've obviously probably like accumulated enough data to know like, oh, for next year that's what we're wrong.
Like
that's
we're looking into those things right now and like, stuff like that. And then there's talks about like getting into producing like of movies and like stuff like that. Like our team has like talked about that, so we're like shopping around a script right now and stuff like that. Very much like still on the back burner, but just I like to keep busy, and I think that's, as you said, that's the secret with acting, and that's part of the reason why I like to be busy, because I don't want acting to be the be all end all for me.
I agree.
I want to have like multiple
Fully
things
agree on this.
and different skill sets, and I like I want to be successful, and there's different aspects where I can do that.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you on that. I just feel like, I mean, acting is one of the things I love, but it's not everything. I'm also like an entrepreneur at heart. I love sports. I'm a very competitive person. So again, the more you fill your life with things, the less acting and the other stuff you have going on in your life will you know, like you won't be.
You grow as a person.
You grow as a person. You won't
Yeah.
take rejection as badly. You'll be fine even if you're not booking. You're just so busy with the other stuff that
you're more secure in yourself as well.
100%.
Like it's even like a psychology thing. As soon as I'm not busy, I start to be like, oh, like,
Yeah.
what are you doing? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you'll go into this like weird, like insecure mindset and it's
Yes.
like, no, stop. Like,
yeah.
you're still doing stuff, but that's like the weird thing about me, but at least I know it. So I can manage it.
I love it, man. I love it.
Yeah.
All right. Austin Trapp, everybody. Dude,
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, man. That was a pleasure.
Yeah.
What a great pleasure to have you, bro.
me.